Hi there, this is Chris, Chaplain at Motor Legends. Now, you may or may not be aware that Scott stopped making its excellent waterproofs a while ago. Well, we were not happy with that, so we have had them copied. Not only have we had them copied, we've had them improved upon. And the company that has improved upon them is Held, the German maker. Anyway, we're going to tell you all about them now. And don't forget, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. When Scott first told us that they were going to discontinue their Ergo Pro waterproof jackets and pants, we were, I have to admit, a bit distraught. These were, after all, the best waterproofs the motorcycle world had ever seen. They were, of course, exceedingly waterproof, but it was the stretchy yet robust nature of their outer fabric, in our view, that made them so popular. You could buy the jacket and pant to fit snugly over, say, a mesh jacket and a pair of jeans, yet so much stretch did they contain that the same pairing would work equally well over a bulky winter outfit. They were the most comfortable waterproofs ever, and by buying them a little on the snug side, you could avoid all of that noisy flapping that went with traditional waterproofs. I don't think we were the first people to ever offer the Scots, but undoubtedly we made them famous, such that before long, lots of retailers jumped on the bandwagon. For our part, so taken were we with the Scots that it didn't take us long for us to delist all of the other waterproofs that we stocked. The Ergo Pros, as they were known, were simply better, and we just didn't have the heart to offer our customers what we knew to be a second best solution. The truth is that we sold bucket loads. At one point, Scott accused us of wholesaling them overseas, but we never did that. We were just very impressed with them, and so it would seem were our customers. We knew that we didn't want to be without Scott's waterproofs. We offered the company a huge order in order to get them to continue making them for us, but it would seem that Scott wanted to exit the motorcycle market completely. They simply weren't interested. And so we scouted around for somebody who might be prepared to make them for us, and that company turned out to be Held in Germany. And I have to say that we couldn't be happier. Here was one of the most technical brands in the market, and importantly, a company with a Gore-Tex license. And what that means, or what that meant was, this was a company that understood the demands of making waterproof gear at the very highest level. We started working with Held on samples in early 2024, and the results of our joint endeavour are now here in the warehouse. Our brief was very simple. We didn't want them to reinvent Scott's waterproofs. Truth be told, it's always dangerous in our view to mess with a winning formula, because you can never really know why it is a winning formula. What instead we asked Held to do was copy the Scots as closely as they possibly could. Within those parameters, what we did say to them was that we would be happy to improve upon their technical performance, but that the basic design had to remain unaltered. And Held being Held, they stuck to the brief. Their waterproofs look identical to the Scots, but they're potentially quite a bit better. Of course, the first challenge was to find the same outer fabric that Scott had used, or something very similar. We didn't want to see a fabric with less stretch, something that was less strong, or something that was less waterproof. We sampled a number of different waterproof fabrics. Some missed the mark, some were similar but not quite right. But eventually, Held found a waterproof fabric that felt almost identical, but that delivered both a higher waterproofing score and a higher breathability score. And even though the Scots were never really lacking in these departments, we took the view that more waterproof and more breathable could only be considered a good thing. In terms of waterproofing, the new Held waterproof scored 22,500 millimeters on the hydrostatic head test. That's an improvement of 25% over the Scots in terms of waterproofing. The breathability score has gone up on average from 2,000 grams over 24 hours per meter squared to 2,750 grams in 24 hours over a meter squared. And I say on average because the black jacket and the pants are marginally more breathable than the yellow jacket. But that's on average still an improvement of 37%, by the way. Now, in all the years that we've offered Scott waterproofs, we have never come across a single instance of rain finding its way through the outer fabric. But we did very occasionally see issues where the water had got in through the taping that has to be applied to every panel joint on a laminated garment. And so we asked whether Held could use their experience with Gore-Tex products to improve the taping. And so that's one of the things that they have done to improve on the Scots. They are using better seam welding techniques and have specified a better quality tape like the one used on Gore-Tex products. And they have given the factory very explicit instructions about how and where this taping is to be applied. We also agreed with Held that the zips should be upgraded to YKK zips. In truth, there wasn't really ever a problem with the unbranded own label zips used by Scott on their jackets and pants, but everybody accepts that YKK zips, although more expensive, are the best. They just don't fail, they last longer, and their waterproof zips are totally waterproof. We did one other thing to make the Helds better than the Scotts. The Helds come as standard with adjustable stirrups. We offered this as a chargeable upgrade on the Scotts, but for some people, these stirrups can make a huge difference. Now, if you wear a taller touring or commuting boot, or if you wear a full-height adventure boot, stirrups are perhaps not important. And to this end, the stirrups on the new Held pants can be simply removed if you don't want to use them or if you don't need them. But where the stirrups can be vitally important is if you ride in short ankle boots. The problem is that the elasticated bottoms of the Scott pants were always liable to pop off the short shaft of an ankle boot. Now, to be fair, this was never a problem attributable solely to the Scotts or to the Scotts per se. The problem is one that stems from wearing a short ankle boot in the first place. A short boot is always going to be more susceptible to water ingress than a taller boot. But if the elasticated bottom of a waterproof pant does part company with the boot shaft, then the rain is simply going to bounce off the road and run into the boots, or it's going to run down the outside of the pants into the boot. The solution, obviously, is a stirrup that keeps the elasticated hem of the pants in place on the boot shaft. And that's what you get with the Held pants that you didn't get with the Scotts, namely adjustable stirrups. And so, whilst our brief to Held was to copy the Scotts as faithfully as they could, in doing so they have managed to effect some important improvements. Higher waterproofing and breathability scores, better quality and more reliable taping and seam welding, better quality, more reliable zips, and finally, of course, adjustable stirrups. To us, this solution sounds like a win-win, exactly the same as the Scotts, but better. We've kept the sizing the same as it was on the Scotts, and what that means is that you should still go down a size on what you reckon yourself to be. This advice applies equally to both men's and women's sizes, to jackets and to pants. Now, there was always a longer leg version in the pants. Many people went for these because they partially overcame the ankle boots issue, but that didn't always work. Anyway, we have also had Held make a long leg version because taller folk are simply going to need them. As before, the jacket will be available in either yellow or black. The pants are available only in black, which makes sense as a pair of yellow pants would get dirty very quickly. As far as pricing is concerned, we have been unable to keep the prices down to the Scott figure. And to be honest, that's largely down to the YKK zips. We were given a lower price for off-the-shelf zips, but we reckon that the extra tenner was worth paying. That is, I'm afraid, on us. Anyway, we've just had our first delivery in. We have scheduled stocks coming from Germany every 4 weeks. Now, over time, we will have the ability to adjust our stock quantities to ensure that we never run out in any size. But in the first few months, we may well find ourselves short in some sizes because we've got our forecasting wrong. And if that happens, again, I'm sorry, that's on us. Finally, just so that you know, these new waterproofs are going to be totally exclusive to Motor Legends in the UK. Our deal with Held allows them to sell the waterproofs into other markets, but in that they missed their sell-in window for 2026, they'll actually be exclusive to us worldwide until early in 2027. As I said earlier on, lots of people will be trying to jump on this particular bandwagon. A number of brands have already presented waterproofs to us as potential Scott replacements. Some, I have to tell you, were laughably poor, some were better, but none, I would suggest, have been put together with the care these ones have. You may, at some point, come across waterproofs that look similar to the Scotts, but that doesn't mean that they're going to perform like the Scotts. None, I think we can say, or we can be sure, are going to perform like the new Helds. Well, I hope you found that interesting. If you'd like to learn more about the Scotts, sorry, I mean the Helds, click on one of the links on the screen. Sometimes they're up there, sometimes they're down there. That will take you to a dedicated section on the website. Now, when you're there, you can check out the spec of the Helds in a little bit more detail. You can check availability, and obviously, if you want to buy a pair, you can do that there and then. When you buy from us, we try to make the process as simple, straightforward and risk-free as we possibly can. There's no delivery charge on any item protected where that you buy from us. Returns are totally free, and what's more, we give you a full 12 months in which to decide whether you do want to return something to us. We have the best price promise in the business. Now, many years ago, John Lewis was rightly famed for its never knowingly undersold price promise. Well, we go one stage better. If you can find anybody selling anything that we sell at a price that is below ours, we will beat that competitor's price by a full 10%. Now, there are a few terms and conditions associated with what we call our price beat, nothing particularly onerous, I can assure you. But if you are going to attempt to price beat us, I suggest you go over to the website and check out what those terms and conditions are. Now, if in the future you'd like to receive an email or receive email bulletins from us about new products, then go to the website. At the top of the page, there's a piece of script that says newsletter sign up. Click on that, within seconds you'll be in business. In future, you'll receive our email bulletins. If, however, you prefer to get your information videographically, that is to say in this form, we'd be simply delighted if you want to become a subscriber to the YouTube channel. And you can do that by clicking on the button below. Finally, I'd like to make mention of our fabulous little shop here at Motor Legends. We're based about a mile from the centre of Guildford, a mile from the railway station. But even though the shop has a small footprint, we have more than £4 million worth of stock arranged over 3 floors in a warehouse that is attached to the shop. And technically that makes this the second largest motorcycle apparel shop in the UK. But we'd like to think of ourselves as far more than just the amount of merchandise we have here in the building. We're all about service, we're all about personal fitting. If you want to check us out, visit Trustpilot. We have the highest 5-star ranking in the business. And when you come to see us, we'll serve you only the finest Italian coffee, or we'll serve you proper Yorkshire tea in a proper teapot. And who knows, if you're really lucky, you might even get to sample one of our delicious motorcycle-shaped shortbread biscuits. Anyway, this has been Chris. I hope to talk to you again soon.